will help us to continue to move our great city forward on the road to progress and prosperity. Merciful Father, we ask that to bless America, that we may stand together strong and united against all enemies. We ask all this in the name of your beloved Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple of presentations to make tonight. I will be making one, and then we will have one made from the Trinity Railway Express, I believe. Couple of years, we have had a young lady with the Star Telegram who has shown up at every council meeting we have had. And she's been known to make a few phone calls to us at other times, getting information and making preparation for her news story. She's going on to other assignments, and tonight's her last night to be with us. And Elena, if you would you mind joining me here at the podium, please? Elena, I have this certificate of appreciation that myself and the council want to present to you at this time. Whereas Elena Fortner Morrison has served this community well and has announced that she will be working in another area of Northeast Tarrant County, and whereas Elena has won the friendship and the respect of the council, staff, and the citizens of Haltom City, and others with whom she has come into contact through the excellence of her work, her unfailing good nature, and her delightful and offbeat sense of humor. And whereas in her unbiased and well-informed presentation of the news, she has performed a valuable service for our city government and has been most cooperative in helping to reach the public with special bulletins, announcements, and commendations. Now, I, therefore, Calvin White, Mayor of the City of Haltom City, do hereby tender this certificate of appreciation to Elena Fortner Morrison, extending my personal best wishes, as well as those of the City Council and of all of our citizens, and we wish Elena much success and happiness in the future. Elena. Care to address the council or the audience at this time?
Well, I put on my to-do list to figure out something to say here, but every time I sat down to think about it, somebody would ask me a question about moratoriums or 8-liners or stolen signs or street construction or city employees or animal shelters. So I didn't really have time to think anything up. So I can truthfully say that the residents of Haltom City are very wonderful and the politics are interesting. And I've enjoyed working with city staff and city council and all the residents. And if you guys are half as nice to me as you were to, if you will be nice to Ellen, she'll be lucky to work here, and I'll miss everybody. Thank you.
Elena, if you will, remain there just a moment. Some of the members of the council might like to make a comment. Let's just start at this end.
We'll start on this end. This is really going to sound strange coming from the council member in place one, and I thought I'd never say this of anyone that worked for the Fort Worth Star Telegram, but I am personally going to miss having you around.
I would just like to say thanks for your hard work and representing both sides of everything that the council and the citizens have to offer here in the city, and I'm going to miss you as well. Thanks.
I guess I want to say the best thing I like about the Star Telegram is you. And so I'll have to find out what edition that you're writing for, where I can get a hold of that. But Elena, you've been super to Haltom City. You've been good in lifting us up. reporting the good. I know you have to report the bad with the good, but I know you've chased some good stories to get some good publicity. And I know that you just don't pick up a pen and take off writing. You do research on that. And I know I met your dad. She got married since she's came over here. And so I wish you and your husband both the best. And her dad said someday she'll be published. And she has been published a few times here. But I just thank you for everything you've done for Haltom City and wish you luck. And I know whoever you're going to be reporting from there is really getting a great reporter.
Thank you.
Elena, I personally want to thank you very much for everything you've done for our city. And I wish you the best of luck wherever you go. Que vaya con Dios.
Elena, I'd like to wish you well in your future endeavors, and again, thank you for your contributions to our community.
I think it's been a real pleasure, and you've been very professional and haven't tried to give us a black eye. Lots of luck.
Lane, I don't know that I could add to what's already been said, but it's been a pleasure working with you. You've always been fair to this council and to as a council and as individuals. And I appreciate your work. And Haltom City is better for you serving. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you guys very much.
Elena, we do appreciate you. You are one classy lady, and you're the consummate professional in the area of your vocation. And
I may need
have
to
a lot
take
of
some of these
admiration.
down. I don't get to hear them.
Here you go.
This is on the record.
Yeah. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Our next presentation tonight is to be made, I think, by Dave Reagan and Rita Farrell. Dave, you might tell us a little bit about yourself. You haven't always been doing this Fort Worth Transportation Authority thing. You've done a few other things in your life.
Yes, I have. And
You've kind of set where some of us are sitting tonight.
That's true, and this is kind of like Old Home Week coming down here tonight. Haltom City is a neighbor of Richland Hills, and I served in the same seat that the mayor is sitting in there over in Richland Hills for a few years. And Haltom City was always a good friend to our city. And Dewey was on the council whenever I was mayor over there, and some of the other folks here, I'm sure, were strongly involved in the city. But I always felt like that Haltom City and Richland Hills were good neighbors. And we got a wonderful place to live, you know. And I think that we share that same feeling. And Calvin, I know I've known you for quite a spell too, and I know that Calvin is probably counting the ahs that I'm going to say tonight because we were in Toastmasters together for a long time. But anyway, we'll try to get past that. But what we're here for tonight is to thank you for the opportunity to come before you and share with you some of the success that we've had with the TRE. And I have here with us tonight our new Director of Accounting, Wendy Farrelly. And she's going to be helping us pass out some of the items to you. And the Trinity Railway Express rolled into Fort Worth on November the 30th. And it was the first time in 60 years that we have had a commuter train between Fort Worth and Dallas. And many of you, some of you were there to help us celebrate, and we appreciate that. We met our counterpart, DART, at Center Point DFW Airport Station, and I'll have to say they did already have the holes drilled for us to drive the golden spikes in there, but it was a wonderful time to be able to do that. And again, some of you were there to help us link the two counties together by commuter rail. Now then, Wendy will pass out to you some commemorative golden spikes. I don't know if we can get through there or not. Maybe we can. Okay. And while she is doing that, we just want to say we give this to you as a token of our appreciation of the help that we have received from Haltom City. And while she's doing that, I'd like to just take this opportunity to share some other progress reports we've had with the TRE. From January the 2nd to the 22nd, ridership on the TRE was over 140,000 people. We have increased our physical year-to-date ridership is almost 200,000 over last physical year. And our busiest Tarrant County station is the Centerpoint DFW Airport station with about 1,800 boardings each month. And the ridership is exceeding all expectation. The TRE Express has an average of more than 8,000 riders on weekdays. And our weekend ridership has caught up with our weekdays. In fact, one of the largest ridership days we had was on Saturday, and we had over 10,000. And I'd like to say again, thank you for your support and for your help, and that we're going to be having a celebration, another celebration at the TRE, and we hope that you will come and help us celebrate that. We're going to commemorate the African American Business and Historic Warehouse District that was at the ITC location between 1865 and 1940. And we'd ask you that you might mark your calendars and come and help us dedicate that area and help us commemorate that ceremony. And it'll be on Sunday the 24th, and it's beginning at 2 p.m. So I want to again thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight and visit with y'all.
Well, David, thank you for being here, and Rita, we're glad to have you in Haltom City anytime. We know that public transportation is a reality, and it's going to be a major player in the DFW area and in Haltom City and the other cities in the area, probably quicker than we're ready for it to. And to see you and your group proactive in getting that started, we look forward to the unfolding of what will happen in the area of public transportation and the role you will be playing in that.
I think that yes, that is coming to pass, and if you're out on the freeways any today or tomorrow, you'll wish that you could get on a train, or you could get on some form of mass transportation to not have to worry about all of that gridlock we have on the
And we're very
streets.
pleased to have TRE going through the southern part of our city, and we'll see how things unfold over the next several years. We might even like to have a station down there one of these days.
All right.
So don't lose sight of that.
Well, okay, we won't. And listen, thank you very much, and we'll be talking to you again. Anytime you want to talk transportation, give us a call.
Members of the council, any comment or question for Mr. Reagan or Ms. Farrell?
Oh, listen, she has some other data that we need to pass out to you. If you don't mind, Paul, does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
I'd just like to say thanks for coming and making this presentation, and thanks for these lovely spikes. I don't know if they could zoom in on where ACTV can see them, but thank you very much, and thank you for your rail service you have. When you had your grand opening over here in Richland Hills, we rode on it to Dallas and back, and my grandchildren had rode it over to the hockey game.
Oh, did they?
And their only comment was cool.
Yeah.
They didn't think about the hockey game. They thought the train was cool. So thanks for that, and thanks for having that service for us.
Well, thank you very much.
Anyone else with questions or comments for David?
Shirley Dewey's got something there.
Mayor, I'll call you Mayor. It's been about 15 years since I've called you that.
Yes,
It's a pleasure to seeing you again, sir.
good to see you.
We've both changed a little since
Yes,
several
we
years
have.
ago.
I don't know whether we've got thinner or not, but I'm
Well, I
going to
haven't.
debate that question.
But I, like Councilmember Williams, I too rode the train on the initial run to Dallas that day. Quite a joy, and something we need
Good.
many years ago, need now, will need further in the future.
Yeah,
And sure would like to see one in Haltom City.
there you go. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right,
Thank you very
y'all
much.
very much.
The next item on our agenda tonight is our consent agenda consisting of items number 3 through 9. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda. Councilmember Jennings?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda with changes to item 4 as far as verbiage that was discussed in pre-council.
Councilmember Avery.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If you would, register your vote. And the display shows 100% in favor of that motion. The next item on our agenda is the Visitor Citizens Forum. And Ms. Harris, we do not have any cards that have been turned in. And we move on then to the public hearing. And Mr. Elfrink, if you will, introduce item number 10 for us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 10 is a public hearing for the update of the land use assumptions, benefit area, and water and sewer capital improvements plans for impact fees and to set assessment rates relating to water and sanitary sewer impact fees. Excuse me. This has been a very long-term project. Staff and outside consultants and engineers have been working on for over a year. This is something that has had previously some public review and some review by our Planning and Zoning Commission under the title of a different moniker for this particular project. This is a issue that every city that is experiencing growth needs to face. It is an issue that is governed very carefully by state law, setting strict guidelines on how we must set these fees and how we must use them at a later date. We have here tonight our city engineer, Greg Van Nieuwenhuis, to help with the explanation of this rather complex issue. We also have Ms. Diane Palmer, one of our outside consultants who assisted with this project. And Greg, if you'd like to continue, please.
If I might, before you begin to introduce the subject, I will explain kind of the mechanics of how we will go forth from here. You have some comments to make, and after you make your comments and introduce Diane, whatever you have to say, then I will open the public hearing, and Diane will make her presentation. Following Diane's presentation, we will ask for anyone in the audience who wishes to speak for or against or have any input on this hearing, and then we will open it up for the council's discussion in that regard. Go ahead, Greg, if you would.
Good evening. I just very briefly wanted to remind council that with this public hearing tonight, we're asking for your guidance or direction on 4 key issues, and those 4 key issues are on the bottom of the page 1, and that is to consider changing Haltom City from 2 benefit areas into 1 benefit area, to approve the land use assumptions for impact fees, to approve the capital improvements plans for impact fees, and to give us guidance on the direction that you'd like us to go in terms of setting the assessment rate for water and sewer impact fees for the upcoming 5 years. And as I said in the pre-council, we'll be looking to hear which way you want to go after tonight's meeting. And your next meeting, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be presenting an ordinance which goes over the 4 things that I just mentioned, and which will, in effect, set the impact fees for the upcoming 5 years or until the next time that we update our impact fee ordinance. And with that, I'll turn it over to Diane Palmer.
Okay, Diane, welcome. And as you begin your presentation, I will announce to the audience that we're now opening the public hearing regarding item number 10, the update of the land use assumptions and the other things that are involved in the verbiage on that titlement. So if you would, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here also with Greg Saunders from Tignall and Perkins, who does a lot of your engineering work, and I'm a consultant that does a lot of financial calculations as well as an engineer. And we have spent the last year, as Greg said, looking at the water and sewer capital improvements plans and what that means from the standpoint of impact fees for water and sewer for Haltom City. I wanted to go briefly over what impact fees are. Impact fees are assessed against new development that to help pay for the cost of upgrading your system that is caused by the demand from new development. Impact fees were originally authorized by the state in 1989. Haltom City set its first water and sewer impact fees in 1990. Water and sewer impact fees are typically set and calculated based on water meter size, if you will. The revenues that are collected from impact fees have to be spent specifically on projects that are identified as impact fee projects. That the monies that are collected have to be accounted for separately and spent separately on projects that are identified. And you have systems in place now that have been doing that for a number of years. The impact fee, the state law requires that the impact fee plans can look no farther into the future than 10 years. So the plans that we're presenting to you tonight for impact fee assessment are the infrastructure that needs to be in place by 2010 and would reflect the capacity to serve what development we expect to be coming into Haltom City between 2000 and 2010. The new state law also stipulates that you have to review the impact fees every 5 years. You can do it more often than that, but you do need to do it every 5 years. The law also stipulates that a Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, which is currently in place in Haltom City, has to report to the council every 6 months that the impact fee program is being managed in accordance with state law and monitor how that's being managed. On September 1st, 2001, there were several changes to the law that had been in effect since 1990 that went into effect on September 1st. And I wanted to highlight a couple of those changes because it has an effect on how we've calculated the maximum fees for you in this study. One of the most significant things is that the new law requires that as you calculate maximum impact fees, you also have to calculate a credit against those impact fees that takes into account the ad valorem taxes that would be collected from a property and the revenues from utility billing sources. The difficulty in doing that is that you're trying to estimate what taxes and revenues you're going to expect from a property that hasn't even been platted and built, and you don't know what the use necessarily of that property is or what size that property be or what kind of meter that property is ultimately going to come in and request. So as an alternative, the state law allows you to credit 50% of the fee, and that is in essence that's how we've calculated the fee as a 50% assessment that was reported in the document that was made available a month ago. And I also should point out that this hearing was advertised a month ago on February 11th in the Star Telegram, and this report has been available for a month here at the city. The new law also requires that you calculate or you collect fees at the issuance of building permits. In the past, some cities had done it at different times, but you do need to require it when the building permit is issued. Again, you have to update the study every 5 years rather than 3 years. You also have to submit an annual certification to the State Attorney General certifying that the program is being done in accordance with state law by September 30th of each year. If the program is not done in accordance with state law, then Haltom City would be assessed a 10% penalty of the fees that you had collected during the year. And then the changes in the law also stipulated how public hearings would be held to set new impact fees. And this hearing and how we've prepared the report for you is in compliance with those changes that went into effect in September. We knew they were coming along, and we set up the process so that would be in place. Just to give you a brief overview of where we are in the process, last year on March 27, 2001, we took the land use plan that's presented here, which is the land use assumptions for impact fee development to develop the capital.
Excuse me just a moment. Do you mind taking the mic off the stand and holding it when you move away? That way all of us will be able to hear you. Thank you.
We used the 1995 land use plan with minor adjustments for known changes that had occurred either already or were in the process of occurring, and most of those changes were in the Fossil Ridge area up north of 820, an apartment complex here off of McClendon, and then some areas that are being probably potentially being developed commercially, along with the core project that's been approved down in the airport freeway area. From this land use plan, we developed the water and sewer capital improvements plan. So we brought these changes and these assumptions to you in March to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee and then to the Council on April 23rd of 2001. And you reviewed those and then approved it for our use in developing the plans, and we went back and developed the water and sewer capital improvements plans. Then in addition, we took the report that was submitted to you a month ago and advertised and available to the public, and presented that report to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee on January the 8th, and they reviewed the document and have submitted it to you for your consideration. On page 5 of your handout, the water capital improvements plan and the sewer capital improvements plan resulted in several pieces of information. One is that when we develop a master plan, if you will, we typically develop those for a 20-year planning period so that you know what kind of infrastructure you need out for 20 years. And so we did that for both the water system and for the wastewater system, for the sewer collection system. We identified several projects for both the water system and the sewer system. The 2020 water system improvements are valued at $5.5 million. The 2020 sewer system improvements totaled to $21,768,000. Much of that work on the sewer system side had already been identified in the 1998 study that was done in response to the consent decree that Haltom City has with EPA. That study was reviewed again and updated for growth from areas that are not developed, and we've included that in this tabulation. You have received $11.7 million in funding from the Texas Water Development Board, a loan from them to fund some of the sewer projects, but that leaves $15.5 million that needs to be funded for water and sewer projects through 2020 to meet the demand that we expect to be manifested in Haltom City by the year 2020. We took those 2020 plans and evaluated what portion of those plans could be attributable to new development. So there's new businesses and new residential development that's coming into Haltom City between the year 2000 and 2010, and we calculated of that $27 million worth of work that needs to be done, what share of that is caused by the new development, and that total is $2,676,445. On page 6, we also took from the land use plan, we looked at typical land use patterns, we looked at the way standard engineering practices would predict how many meters would go on what type of land use, and we're estimating that 377 meters will be installed in Haltom City, between an additional 377 meters between the year 2000 and 2010. Most of those meters will be 3/4 inch meters, some will be 1 inch or 2 inch meters. And and if you look at, for instance, a 2 inch meter will place 5.33 times the demand that a 3/4 inch meter places on the system. So if you have a house and you turn on the faucet, you have a certain amount of water that comes out, but if you have a 2 inch meter next door at a commercial establishment, they'll place 5 times that demand on a system. A 6 inch meter can place 33 times the demand on the system. So we go through and look and see, what types of meters are probably going to be put in place on what type of property. Commercial property would have a bigger meter potentially than single family. So we estimate the number of meter equivalents, if you will, that is the demand that's placed on the system. So to calculate the impact fees, we take the amount of money that is attributable to the projects that have to be built to meet the new demand, which is the $2.6 million, and divide by the meter equivalents that are causing that demand, if you will. And on so we calculate a maximum water impact fee. So on page 7, your 2001, meaning last year's at the end of December, maximum water impact fee that could be assessed that to recoup the cost that is caused by new development is $1,588.97 for water, and for sewer it's $3,323.47. Because the state law requires that you give a credit either by calculating ad valorem taxes or water and sewer revenues, or give a 50% credit. We have calculated for you what a 50% credit would be. So a 50% assessment of the maximum water fee would be $794.49. A 50% assessment of the maximum sewer fee, impact fee, would be $1,661.73. The next 2 pages tabulate what the City of Fort Worth fees are and Haltom City fees for the North Benefit Area and the South Benefit Area. And in 1990, when impact fees were first set up, the city, two benefit areas were set up for water and sewer impact fees, and they roughly were divided across Broadway, such that you had a different assessment rate in the north area and another assessment rate in the southern area. You're one of only two. There are only 2 other cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that really have multiple benefit areas. Everyone else has chosen to have one benefit area for water and sewer impact fees, and there's several reasons for that. One of the things it allows you to do is collect money from all new development coming in throughout town and then spend that money where you need to for the most immediately needed project without having to figure out, did I collect the money in one area and where is the next project needed to be built. We recommend that you consider changing from 2 benefit areas to 1 benefit area so that you have the ability to collect revenues across town. You have the ability to spend the money on the most urgently needed project that would benefit the development that's coming in when it's needed. It also allows you several advantages from the standpoint of accounting for the funds. You can use one system to account for the funds. It's much easier to track it and manage it, and you don't spend nearly as much money in the administration of it. You also are required to, by your contracts for wholesale water and wholesale sewer service, you're required to pass through Fort Worth's impact fee to people that come into Haltom City, and that's true of all 33 wholesale customer cities that Fort Worth has. Some of the wholesale customer cities for Fort Worth only get sewer service from Fort Worth, and some only get water service, so they may only have a partial fee. You get both water service and sewer service, so that you are required to pass through their fees to new development that comes in. And then in addition, the calculations that are presented in this report are the fees that Haltom City would add to the Fort Worth impact fee assessment, and it reflects the work that you would have to do. That is, Fort Worth's fee reflects the capital improvements that Fort Worth has to build to get water to the city limits, and the fee that we're calculating in this report are the capital improvements that you need in place to serve the citizens within the city limits of Haltom City. Table 3 gives you an idea what the impact fees would be for a single family or a standard benefit unit of 3/4 inch meter, adding the city of Fort Worth and the Haltom City 50% assessment rate would be $3,281 for both water and sewer, adding Fort Worth and Haltom City assessments for a new 3/4 inch meter coming, a property that requires a 3/4 inch meter coming into town. Table 4 is a summary of the Haltom City impact fees calculated for each of the possible meter sizes that someone might come in and ask for on their property. And it goes from 3/4 inch down to 10 or up to a 10-inch meter. Haltom City doesn't currently allow a 1.5 inch meter or a 3-inch meter, although Fort Worth does. So we've shown you all the different rates. The columns on the right-hand side are 100% maximum rate that could be assessed, and that 100% rate again reflects the recovering all the cost of the systems that's needed to be in place to serve the new development. So in other words, that's what the new development costs Haltom City to be able to serve water, provide them with water and sewer service. On the right-hand side is the 50% assessment rate, and then it's totaled on the very right-hand side. And then table 5 again gives you an idea of, on the left-hand side, the assessment rate that comes in from Fort Worth that you're required to assess. Fort Worth set those rates in 1999 and would typically have come up for review again this last year, but because the state law has changed from a 3-year review to a 5-year review, they actually told me in December that they anticipated they would not review their rates again for another 2 years. So they were going to opt to go to a 5-year review schedule. So based on their statement, the Fort Worth fees should be in place for another 2 years unless they choose to review their impact fee assessment sooner than that. And then on the right-hand side is the 50% assessment rate. So when you add those together, again, a 3/4 inch meter would be you would require a $3,281.87 assessment from a 3/4 inch meter. And I'll answer any questions that someone might have from you, Mr. Mayor.
Members of the council, any questions for Diane? Okay, I don't believe there is. You want to proceed?
Okay, good.
Greg, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, again, it's my intention that we hear what the public has to say, and then after that, if there's public comment, to hear what any input that the city council may have on the 4 items on the bottom of page 1.
Okay. Pat, anything before we call on the citizens?
I'd like to thank both Greg and Ms. Palmer for their excellent presentation. And again, the 4 items, especially the one benefit area, are especially important to us. The land use assumptions are something that are the best estimates that our staff can come up with. The document that was mentioned earlier contains detailed information about all of these assumptions. It is available for public scrutiny at our library. It's available here at City Hall if anyone from the public would like to look at it. It lists in great detail the various projects that comprise the basis for these impact fees. And basically, I'll just at this point pass it on to the council for them to make a decision as to at what rate we might assess these fees.
Since this is a public hearing, members of the audience are invited to address the council regarding the impact fee information that has just been presented by Ms. Palmer. Anyone in the audience wish to come forward at this time and address the council? Okay, no one wishes to do so. Members of the council, we're ready for questions that you may have of Ms. Palmer, or we're ready to begin discussion in the areas we've been asked to give the staff some input on. You will notice as you look at your agenda tonight, there's no corresponding ordinance. All we're doing tonight is just conducting a public hearing. I believe at our next council meeting, we will have the corresponding motion to be addressed at that time. Members of the council, questions, comments? First of all, regarding the presentation. Okay, I don't believe we do. Mr. Elfrink, would you help us then? Do we need discussion regarding the one benefit area? Would that be appropriate at this time?
The council's invited to discuss any aspect of the study at this time. We will need a decision from the council at the next meeting when we have the ordinance for these 4 areas. If you wish to see adjustment to the study between now and in the next 2 weeks, staff would certainly appreciate the input at this time. As our city attorney pointed out earlier in the pre-council session, the ordinance must be approved within 30 days of the public hearing. Is that what you said, Wayne? So we have, it seems like a long time, but really it's a very short amount of time for staff to do anything with the recommendations that council may have regarding these 4 basic issues.
Tonight should be used for the council to get a comfort level with where we're going. If you have a lot of issues that you still want to address, then you might want to consider continuing the public hearing, because again, we've got a 30-day window of opportunity to adopt the ordinance after the public hearing, which basically means that you've got 2 readings, that this will be brought forward at your next meeting, and then the second reading will be the following meeting. One of the issues that I heard discussed tonight was what's been addressed is a maximum assessable impact fee under the state law. And if you have any direction that you want to give the staff tonight as far as what to put in the ordinance as the maximum assessable fee, then tonight would be appropriate to discuss that. Otherwise, if you want to think about it and raise that issue in 2 weeks, that's perfectly acceptable also. We can easily revise the ordinance at that time if you're not comfortable with the maximum assessable impact fee.
Councilmember Jennings?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that it's imperative that we do look at one benefit area in that the funds that are collected will need to be distributed throughout the city. Under the existing structure, we're not able to do that, so I would certainly lean in that direction. One of the things that bothers me about this, and we discussed this briefly in pre-council, is that at a 50% impact fee, as we discussed, we are placing Haltom City pretty much on the same level fee-wise as with cities like South Lake, Colleyville, Grapevine, areas like that. One of the things that I've heard in the past about Haltom City, the reason a lot of people come here is because you get a lot of bang for your buck here. You can buy an awful lot of house for your money in Haltom City. If we're tacking $4,000 or $3,500 worth of impact fees on new single-family developments, builders are not going to absorb that $3,500. That's going to be passed along to the people that buy those houses, and that's going to be amortized out over a 30-year period. All of a sudden, the bang for your buck that you get in Haltom City is not quite as good at that particular rate. So I'm concerned on two levels. I'm concerned, number one, that we will be needing the funding. There's no doubt about that. I don't believe that we're going to be able to absorb all of the cost over the next 20 years through this impact fee alone. But I just don't think that we should set ourselves up to compete with cities like South Lake and Grapevine, Colleyville, as far as single-family development goes. First of all, we're not going to get that level of housing. We're not going to have $500,000 houses built in Haltom City. I would lean toward bringing that 50% fee down. And we discussed in pre-council that, theoretically we're at 10. We're looking at 50, so we have from 10 to 50. We have 40% in there that we can look at. The city of Fort Worth is at 35%. Realistically speaking, I think we're going to need as much as we can get, but I just don't want to price ourselves out of the ballpark here. I don't want an impact fee dissuading some large retail chain from locating in Haltom City. I don't see $10,000 or something like that being a deal breaker for them, but we have to consider that this affects not only single family dwellings, it affects businesses, it affects everything that's built in the city of Haltom City between now and 2010. So I, for one, would like to look in the area of 35% as a maximum cap, and I'd like to hear what some of my fellow council members feel about this.
Greg, do you need to make a comment on that before Councilmember Williams?
No, Councilmember Williams is more than welcome to speak. I just had a proposition for Councilmember Jennings. Leave it up.
Go ahead.
And I understand your concern, and what I might offer is when the ordinance is developed, what you'll probably see is a fee schedule, again, based on meter sizes. Why don't we have, say, 4 charts in there? One at 30%, one at 35, one at 40, one at 45, and this 50% chart. And then you can see, maybe you feel that the 30% chart's a little bit too low. I guess I'm kind of hearing that the 50%, is kind of on the high side. Maybe if you got to see all those and I pick 5% increments, then you could pick out, this 40% isn't so bad. And I just talked to Ms. Palmer. It wouldn't be that difficult to show you, say 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50, those 5 charts.
Yeah.
And, then you'd have something to look at. You'd see exactly what does 30% mean on those numbers.
Well, it would be much more of a buffet that way. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be most helpful in helping us make a decision.
And I would be more than willing, and I don't think that would be that difficult to do in that part of the ordinance, because do you not have just a fee table, Wayne? And we could provide, all 5 tables, and then you can pick which table you want in that section of the ordinance.
It's not difficult for me at all. You two will be doing the work on that, so that's not a problem at all for me.
Diane assures me it'll be easy.
I'd like to look at those figures, I sure would.
Councilmember Williams.
Well, I'd like to look at the buffet table when y'all get set out. I agree with Councilmember Jennings on the one benefit area. I never have really liked separating Haltom City, the north and the south. I think Haltom City is Haltom City. And to clarify, there's not any money, stacks of money up north or stacks of money down south from this. This is something that's going to start from right now. We're still catching up, trying to get under government regulations. I would like to, when we say impact fee, I guess, Greg, you can come to the microphone, tell the citizens how this is going to affect the citizens that live here now.
This should have no effect on any existing homeowners. I see it perhaps having an effect on some business owners. For instance, if you own a business and right now you have a 4-inch meter, which is an extremely large meter for a business, and let's say your business was doing well and you no longer, your demand was such that the 4-inch meter was inadequate and you needed a 6-inch meter. So what you would do is either get an additional meter or replace your 4-inch with a 6-inch meter. In that case, your 4-inch meter is an existing impact on the system. That's an existing condition. You desire a 6-inch, so what we have done in the past, and we would continue to do, is we look at what the costs are for a 6-inch meter. We look at what the costs are for a 4-inch meter and take the difference. So in essence, you're only paying that incremental difference. You're not paying for a brand new 6-inch meter and the fees associated with it. You're only paying for the difference between that 6-inch meter and that 4-inch meter. And we've traditionally done that throughout Haltom City.
Also on the big ticket, the large retailers, we're talking about, making theirs higher. Don't we also have the Economic Development Corporation that could look in and help if that was going to be a make or break deal, and that corporation could give assistance to them that way?
Yes and no. And what I mean by, let me go with the no first. We cannot waive Fort Worth's impact fees.
Right.
As you know, when you develop in Haltom City. So that's what I mean by no. We have to carry those through. We're mandated by that in our contract with the city of Fort Worth. What I mean by yes, and we have done this, if it's a make or break deal, we've waived our portion of the impact fees, and we've done that on a few occasions, and it's not a good idea to get in the habit of that, but there have been a few industries that have been rather attractive, and we've done exactly that, waived the water and sewer impact fees in order to get them in Haltom City.
And it's been successful?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Markham.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I agree with what Councilmember Jennings has said, and I think Greg really hit the nail on the head. I would like to see some variations. I think we need to be very careful not to set the maximum rate too high. I think that would be detrimental to this city in certain aspects. I think if we can see some variables here and hopefully hit a happy medium that would strike a good balance, make everybody happy. Thank you, Mayor.
Other members of the council, would you like to speak on these matters? Councilmember Jennings?
I have one follow-up question for Greg. Greg, I'm looking back on Table A of the handout you've given here, and it's assuming 96.15% of the usage here would be in residential for a total of, by 2010, for a total of 274 units. Is that correct? Is that?
No, 96% of the existing meters are.
Of the existing meters.
Just to let you know that 96% of the existing meters are 3/4 inch.
Okay.
We anticipate 73% of the new meters could be 3/4 inch meters.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, how many units are we looking at, single-family dwellings between now and 2010? What did you base that on?
There's 197.
Total units between now and 2010?
There's only a couple of parcels.
Right.
Down here in the southern part of town.
Okay.
They're still not developed. I think there's one on the north side.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Diane, but that's single-family residential. Right. Most of your multifamily, what they'll do is they'll have like a 4-inch meter and connect two buildings side by side off of that.
Right.
We're assuming that we made assumptions about commercial development. Most of the undeveloped property is commercial or multifamily at this point, and we made some assumptions. We made assumptions that there might be 4 large commercial properties that might demand a 2-inch meter on some of the big commercial tracks along, say, 820, for instance. And so we placed that demand in the model to say, okay, this to calculate what size the system would need to be. We split the size, the remaining commercial property that we anticipate being developed, we split it about 50-50 between 3/4-inch meters and 1-inch meters, not knowing what kind of meter they might actually come in and ask for, so we made those assumptions. All the residential meters we assumed would ask for a 3/4-inch meter. The apartment complexes that potentially could be developed, we patterned those after existing development. Most of your current multifamily dwellings come in with 16 units or 20 units using a 2-inch meter, and so we made some of those same assumptions that such that the development would look very much like the development that you have now.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thanks, Mayor. You had mentioned 197 residential meters.
I can show you the table if I can.
It's table A. I thought I see 274. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Because some of those are commercial 3/4-inch meters. I'm just the residential meters.
Oh, okay. It's mixed together. The 274 is mixed.
If you look
with
on
commercial.
page 6, if you look on page 6, table 1.
Okay, gotcha.
There's 197
197.
single family, 17 2-inch multifamily, 6 public, with the churches. There's these 2 schools that we anticipate being developed on the school district property up there. We anticipated they would demand 2-inch meters. We've estimated 4 large commercial developments like a Target or Kmart or Walmart or something like that would typically come in and ask for a 2-inch meter. And then the small commercial properties that are kind of scattered all over town, we split those between 1-inch and 3/4-inch meters. So when you take the 77 and 197, that's how I'm estimating the 3/4-inch.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you. This can be for either one. If you get a big ticket store, like you said, that comes in like that and requests a certain size meter, does our fire department or our city engineer, who decides on whether that meter is going to be large enough to carry, and also with the sprinkler system that's going to be required?
Normally your bigger retailers and your commercial entities, they're pretty savvy on how impact fees work. And what they'll do is, for what they need for domestic use, for inside the store use, that may only dictate a 2-inch meter. So their impact fees for both water and sewer are based off that 2-inch meter. They'll grab a separate meter strictly for irrigation. And when they do that, that meter we only collect water impact fees, no sewer impact fees, because it's used strictly for irrigation. Then they'll do a third, and it's not really a meter, it's what's called a double detector check system for the fire system. And there are no impact fees on the fire system. So whatever size they put in, our fire department determines that it's adequate for the size of the structure, but there are no impact fees associated with fire protection.
Good.
Okay, anything further, gentlemen? Okay, we are therefore at a point in our hearing to decide where we go from here with our hearing. Mr. Elfrink, do we have sufficient feedback for you with regard to the one benefit area for us to be able to move forward?
I think we do, Mr. Mayor. I've heard no dissension from that idea and that concept, and I will say that is one of the biggest improvements we have here that doesn't cost anyone anything. It's just kind of a common sense thing to do with this study. The land use assumptions, I think, are fairly straightforward, and the council has looked at that concept on a number of occasions in the past. The capital improvement plans, the projects that these fees are based upon, they're listed in detail in this book, and each council member has that, and I don't think we've heard any discussion that questions any of that, but we have heard a little bit of discussion about coming back to council with a table showing 4 or 5 levels of these impact fees at 30, 35, 40, so forth. And we can most certainly do that. And you know, some of this decision here is not simply a mathematical, how much can we charge under state law. It is a market-based decision. It is a political decision to try and encourage new growth, but yet we want that new growth to pay its own way. It's one of the reasons impact fees came about in the first place is that certain citizens groups in different parts of the state felt that they were paying for the utility services of new development that was coming into a town, and that is why impact fees were created in the first place, to alleviate that imposition.
Based on what we've heard, is it the pleasure of the council that we continue this public hearing at our meeting 2 weeks from tonight to allow this input from Greg before we proceed? And that will give us, if I understand it correctly, Wayne, that will give us 30 days from that point rather than from tonight if we continue this public hearing at the next council meeting?
Yes, if you continue the hearing.
Is there a reason for us not to continue the hearing, or is there a better approach, gentlemen? Councilmember Jennings.
Mr. Mayor, if you're looking for a motion, I would be happy to make a motion at this time that we continue the hearing to the next regularly scheduled council meeting at such time. Have the tables prepared by staff, and we should be able to make a decision at that point.
Is that an appropriate way to address this, Mr. Counselor?
Right. Yes, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Henderson?
That is for a second.
Okay, Councilmember Williams?
Yes, sir, I would like to have staff put that together and give it to us in plenty of time where we can look at the tables before the next meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Hurley?
That was for a second.
Okay, Councilmember Avery?
Motion.
Mine was for a second, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. If you will, register your votes, gentlemen. And that is a unanimous vote. We move on now to announcements and events. Councilmember Henderson, I believe you have a couple of announcements to make.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to announce to everybody, we have a Citizens Police Academy that's coming up. You can register now. The classes are scheduled to begin on Tuesday, March the 12th. And with anybody having any questions, you can contact Sergeant Russell Ragsdale at 817-834-3456 to pick up an application. At the store, he's at the storefront located at 3520 Denton Highway. They're next to Ace Hardware. So we need to get this class full. I'm going to be attending this class if anybody wants to join me. It's really something that we need to promote in this city. There was an article in the paper about it today, and it was a positive article, and I think that something that we need to see our citizens get out and get involved in. And another announcement I have is it's going to be the Spring Fest is March 23rd. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Haltom Road Park. We need volunteers, and in order to make this thing happen, we need several volunteers. And if you would like to volunteer, 817-831-6464. That's the number to the rec center. You can talk to Angela there. She's going to be in charge of the Spring Fest this year through the Parks Department. And again, this is March the 23rd at the Haltom Road Park from 10 to 4. There will be plenty of vendors with free food, and there'll be Easter egg hunts as always in the past. So let's make this one the best, bigger, and the better, and the best. And that's all.
Councilmember Hurley, you have your light on.
I'd like to bring it to the council's attention about the letter to the editor that David Harper submitted on February the 5th, in which he responded with a great deal of feeling and pride, which is so typical of Haltom City's hometown spirit. The response was made in reply to a Star Telegram article which appeared January the 13th, 2002, headline, Stunted Growth, in which the perceived decay and neglect had taken place in Haltom City and Richland Hills during the past 50 years. In David's article, he took exception to what a businessman had said, that he had seen no improvements in our city. But David goes on at length to list about 4 or 5 projects totaling about $798,904 worth of beautification, which the KTB Governor's Award of 1991 in the 5,000 block of Denton Highway, $60,000. Texas Forest Service grant of 1992, East Belknap Street for $11,404. Texas Department of Transportation Project 1998, Denton Highway, north of Northeast Loop 820, $108,500. The KTB Governor's Award, 2000 Belknap Street, east of Carson, for $214,000. The Step Streetscape, pending Belknap Street, west of Carson, is $405,000. So, in addition to the landscape projects, the board is involved in ongoing anti-litter activities such as picking up other people's trash along its adopted 2-mile section of Denton Highway. I suggest that anyone who thinks the city is not trying to improve its appearance should look around and take note. Signed,
Amen.
David Harper. Thank you.
Point well taken. Well,
It's a little bit of hometown spirit right here in the Metroplex where it seems to be there's such a loss. And this is typical of Haltom City.
thank you for sharing that with us. Councilmember Williams.
I've got an announcement that I want to read here, but I see we have a scout out here in the audience, and I'm sure he's working on some sort of a badge or something. Could you stand up and wave at the council? I know everybody can't see you there. We always don't get to honor these gentlemen when they come in. And I know whatever kind of badge he has to sit there and listen to 45 or 50 minutes of impact fees, he deserves that badge. Thank you, son. Number 2, we had our 5 and 10K Buffalo Stampede Saturday. We had a great turnout. The weather was good. I want to take my hat off to the park board for the hard work they put in and planned that. George Fowler and his staff. Our PD handled all the traffic with no incidents whatsoever. Fire department came out, brought a Quint truck. I was happy to see a lot of our city employees there as volunteers, weren't here as workers. There were some that just came down and were here just because they wanted to be here. So thank you to all those employees. The Volunteer Service Board, the Senior Citizen Center was down. They had refreshments for everyone. I want to thank the mayor and the council members that were able to attend. I know Saturday's a tough day for some of us to get away, but for those that came out. And I also want to thank 2 former mayors, Trey Fowler and Nancy Watkins, for their participation in it. And I think a good time was had by all.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Williams. And to our Boy Scout in the audience, I'd like to extend to you an invitation. I think it's my time in our rotation of invocation and pledge at our next council meeting, and I would like to invite you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Would you like to do that, or shall I contact you later with regard to that?
We won't talk intact, these tell you.
Okay. Don't get away. Let me get your name and phone number, and we'll be sure to contact you. But it would be an honor for us to have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance 2 weeks from tonight at the regular council meeting.
Mayor, find out what troop he's in.
You want to stand up and tell us your name and what troop you're in? 436?
336.
Great.
Joshua Sanderson. Thanks for coming out tonight, Joshua.
Fantastic. You're always welcome. Item number 13 on our, item number 11 on our agenda tonight is resignation of board members. Gentlemen, we have any resignations? There being none, item 12 is appointment or reappointment. Any appointments or reappointments?
Mayor, I'll have an appointment for the Crime Prevention Board at the next council meeting.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, there being none, excused absence. We have all members present and accounted for. The time is 20 minutes until 9. The council will meet in closed session at this time pursuant to section 551.071 and .072, and we'll reconvene in open session to take action on any item that is called for.